I'm not Portuguese, but I grew up here. There's this bar. You see, there's like nothing here, and there's this bar a couple of kilometers down this way, and the same old farmers are hanging out there for the last 18 years, drinking their favorite self-distilled fig liquor. And I was there a week ago and sat down with one of the farmers and started talking to him, and he was like completely hammered, could barely speak, and I could really not understand a word he was saying. But before that, I had read this passage from Ram Dass, and Ram Dass says that when he speaks to people, he essentially clears his mind entirely, starts chanting a mantra, and just tries to connect to the being that is speaking, not to the things they're saying, but who is there operating the psychological infrastructure of the person you're talking to. So who is it essentially that is playing the drunk man? You're not talking to the drunk farmer, but you're relating to the being that is operating this drunk man. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like thinking it from the perspective of the soul. The soul being an information network that through experience grows and, operates bodies in order to do so. It's kind of an out there theory, but it's an interesting perspective to have. So I was sitting there talking to this drunk man from that perspective, and all of a sudden I felt this insane connection. Just like, I'm this organism here with this body saying all these things, and he's this organism with this body saying all these things. And essentially we were just going back and forth, blah, 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 right? We were not really understanding each other that well. But because I was completely letting go of judgment and just relating to him from the place of love, just of detachment, just not judging him, not putting him into any value system. That allowed me to connect to him really well. Another form of detachment is detachment of methods. Scientists and intellectuals tend to cling to reason and logic. Reason and logic are essentially a framework of making sense of relationships. And in order to apply this framework, you need an object and a subject, or a subject and an object. But with this framework, you can never perceive wholeness, because you need separation by definition in order for reason and logic to function. So scientists and intellectuals often have a hard time experiencing wholeness, experiencing being one with everything, because there's a constant separation of subject and object, of analyzing. So, yeah, I think that reason and logic and wholeness can actually go hand in hand. Wholeness you could also think of as mystical experiences, meditation experiences, where you just perceive an experience, but you don't perceive an experience in relationship to a value system. So I think it's possible to combine that by detaching from logic and reason, meaning that having reason and logic as a tool of making sense of the world, but not needing to use it all the time, not being attached to it. So that way you can also let go and experience the oneness of everything, and then go back into a mode of separation and create a subject-object relationship and analyze something and put something into intellectual concepts and terms and language and so forth. On the other hand, there's also another form of attachment, and that's the attachment to mystical experiences, the attachment to wholeness. And that attachment you can see in drug addicts, for example. Drug addicts chase that type of feeling, chase that feeling of complete peace, of complete serenity, of complete unity. there's this documentary called Genesis. In it, there's this crazy scene where like a dozen of shamans from all over the world are gathering to show each other their shamanistic techniques. And apparently that gathering was open to the public because this German man happens to walk in there. And as he walks in there, this Korean shaman grabs him by the arm, right, drags him into the middle, and starts dancing with him. He kind of resists, but she takes like a flower and starts hypnotizing him with this flower. And eventually she holds him really close, brings his body to the floor, and starts doing all sorts of ritualistic movements. She even like steps on his chest and puts him into a trance. And he leaves his body and experiences another realm. The other shamans get really scared because they think he's dead. He died. So this becomes kind of intense, and the other shamans start freaking out. She brings him back, and he's just a transformed man. He like thanks her from his heart and says that for the first time in his life he's experienced complete unity with everything. And from that point on, he never smoked, drank, or took any drugs, because he simply had no desire anymore, because he realized that the experience of complete unity is not necessary, is not related to intoxication, meaning that you can experience that without drugs. So yeah, but why are we attached to complete unity? Why do we crave that? Why do we want harmony, peace, love, and all that? Well, I think it is because we are supposed to grow ourselves. We're supposed to grow our soul. And we're supposed to seek those experiences, because that's really what we are as souls. We are one with everything, really. And the separation, we temporarily experience this illusion of a physical reality. That is just here for us to learn. So, should we detach from that feeling that we want unity, that we want love, that we want peace, that we want harmony? Everybody wants it, right? Like, even people deceiving each other and deceiving themselves, they simply don't know the way how to really attain harmony, but they seek it, right? Everybody seeks it their own ways. Some people seek it through drugs, some people have their own value systems of how to find their own harmony. Everybody wants to do good and be good and feel good, but everybody has a different method of doing that, and that's when conflicts and difficulties come. So should we really detach from that core desire to be good, to be one with everything, to be peaceful, to be loving, to feel harmony? I don't think so. I think that's where detachment sort of stops, because if you detach from that, then nothing has meaning. Then you're just swimming in the ocean of nihilism, and you're most likely going to drown in it because you have no direction. So I think that innate goodness that everybody is striving for, that's one thing that is absolute, and that's one thing we shouldn't detach from, but rather we should detach from all the value systems and strange approaches that we have designed for ourselves, right? Like, culture has so many norms, so many ways of doing good that actually don't do any good. So detachment is sort of like a tool that allows us to grow. But growing is something that happens by itself. It's sort of like a gardener that attends a plant. Right? That gardener might have some tricks how to make that plant grow. For example, if you grow beans, you might use a bamboo stick so the beanstalk can climb up and become tall and healthy and have lots of beans. In that same way, we can use detachment as a tool to free ourselves, to free our mind from unnecessary entanglements and pay attention to what actually matters, personal growth, and let our innate goodness be the driving force of our interactions and not our value systems. Yeah.